Hello everybody, my name is Erica Chung and I am a clinical animal behaviorist in Edmonton, Alberta. I run a small company called Revolution Animal Behavior Consulting and Training. I work mostly on veterinary referral, so this means that veterinarians will refer clients to me based on things that they've observed, where they think that clients could use help with their animals, or where clients are asking their veterinarian for help with behavior issues. So I work with all different species, but primarily most of my caseload is dogs, and I'll see, for the most part, some very severe aggression cases. I'll see a lot of anxiety cases, and a wide spectrum of behavior issues within that. Of course, thankfully, I also see some really happy things like helping to raise puppies and kittens and helping with just training dogs to do fun things. But the most important or the most significant part of my job is really working on a lot of those severe cases. And oftentimes I am a last resort for people when they're dealing with serious behavior issues with their dogs. So having said that, this has brought me today to talk to you about an area of animal welfare that I think is a core value for my company and those who work with me, as well as something that just needs to be put out into the world right now, that we're not talking about enough. And I was recently inspired because I had the privilege of attending a lecture given by Tim Caulfield. And for those of you who don't know, Tim Caulfield is a professor at the University of Alberta, and he teaches health policy and ethics and law. And the talk was about misinformation and this age of misinformation that we live in, where there are myths and ideas put out online that are absolutely untrue, yet they become accepted by culture. And although this was about human health and aspects of human ideology, this is extremely relevant to animal welfare as well, because there are so many myths and pieces of misinformation that are on the internet available to people who are seeking help with their animals or looking for information about how to raise and train their animals, and it is harming animal welfare. So I do consider myself to be an animal welfare advocate. So in addition to the animal behavior work that I do, I really feel that my job is to be a voice for animals. They can't speak for themselves. I have a master's degree in animal behavior and welfare. I'm working on my PhD in animal behavior and welfare now. And so that scientific knowledge arms me to be able to debunk misinformation that is out there. So in recent years, I have been really passive in my animal welfare advocacy because I have found that based on past experiences, that boldly speaking out against certain things in animal care and training are often not received very well. And I have received some really scary, harmful criticism that has just sort of shut me down a little bit, made me feel like I couldn't speak up, that I really need to be careful about what I say for fear of the repercussions of that. But the talk that I attended by Tim Caulfield really inspired me because his approach to debunking misinformation and helping to improve the well-being of humans through providing accurate evidence-based information on health is exactly the same approach as what we need in animal welfare. And that is for us to be bold and speak the truth and put information out there and to immediately contradict any kind of misinformation and myths that we see. So that is my goal today, is to talk about one particular thing. And this was also driven by the fact that recently I had quite a difficult week, followed by a fairly difficult day. And this happens. So oftentimes I am, like I said, the last resort for people whose dogs or other animals have severe behavior issues, which is unfortunate because I could help them much sooner. But because I'm the last resort, I often see the really bad cases where the humans are stressed out and really struggling, and the animals are really suffering as well. So that was one of those weeks where it's just all the really hard cases came my way. And then there was one particular case that was just broke me emotionally in terms of just the violation of animal welfare that had occurred. And I'm not going to go into major detail on that because I don't think that's necessary or appropriate for this particular vlog, but I want to say to you that this is just what inspired me to just put this out there. So the core value for me in my work, in my life, is to ensure that we're not using fear and pain to train animals. In no respect should we ever be doing that, but it's extremely common. And specifically the use of shock collars and prong collars, techniques that involve choking, techniques that involve leash corrections. So all of these work through fear and pain. That's how they work. There is no other way to put that. That is evidence-based information for you, that if you are using corrections, if you are using a tool such as a shock collar or a prong collar or a slip lead, these are working for you through pain and fear. That is how the animal is learning to avoid certain behaviors or suppress certain behaviors. It is because they're feeling fear and pain, and that is the only way that these tools work. So anyone who will say to me, well, I've used these tools and actually they're really effective. I've been able now to walk my dog and it's awesome. Or I've been able to give my dog freedom off leash and that's amazing for welfare. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter if they're effective. This is not the question. This is not the topic. This is not an argument that one method is better than the other. This is a fact that these tools and techniques that cause fear and pain in animal training and animal handling simply are unethical because they work through fear and pain, and that's abuse. Using tools and techniques such as shock collars and prong collars or anything else that work through fear and pain is abuse. If you were dealing with a person in your life and you were manipulating them or you were hurting them in order to get them to do something that you wanted, it would be no question, I think, that we would identify that's abuse. And it's the same in animals as well. It is exactly the same. If we're using fear and pain, that is abuse towards your animal, and it's unethical. And that is something that I think needs to be said. We need to say it out loud to ourselves. Using methods and techniques and tools that cause fear and pain to our animals, no matter what our goal is, it is abuse. And when you really acknowledge that, my hope is that these techniques and methods and tools will become less prevalent. There will not be an acceptance of them. And I think there is such a tolerance, perhaps because many people are like me and maybe feeling a little bit scared to say these things out loud. And we just sort of look the other way and say, oh, well, it's working. And so whatever works for people, that's okay. Or the animal is not immediately screaming in pain, so that's okay. But these tools only work through fear and pain. And so that is unethical and it's abuse. I can't emphasize that enough. There is a significant amount of scientific research. If anybody's interested, I can offer you many scientific resources that have been published from researchers around the world over the last decade. So, up until present day, that have shown in different contexts and with different populations of dogs that using aversive methods works through fear and pain, causes significant distress to animals, and we should simply not be using these tools and methods. There are alternatives that are equally and more effective, that are humane, but that's not the point. The point is not whether or not these tools that are aversive are effective or not, because again, that will always be an argument that I hear, is that, well, it worked. But achieving a goal with an animal through fear and pain is abuse. And we have to absolutely recognize that and make that something that we're saying out loud Anytime that is considered as an option or proposed by a professional, make sure that you are aware that those methods are abusive and they're unethical and they only work through fear and pain. And we should never be doing anything to our animals that's going to cause fear or pain. There's really never any reason to be doing that. Our animals deserve better. And this is not just about the animals in our lives, the non-human animals. This is also about humans as well. There are definitely parallels. There have been definitely research studies that have been done that have shown that there are a connection between how we treat animals and the humans in our lives, or the perspectives that we have on humans is influenced by how we treat animals. And so I think that being comfortable with using fear and pain towards an animal is definitely not something we want to be promoting in society. We want a kinder world. And so I think that starts just as much with our animals in our lives as it does with how we treat and see humans. Another thing that I want to point out as well here is that there is incredible fallout from using aversive tools. And again, that's coming from the research that has been published. It increases anxiety and human-directed aggression. So for the sake of achieving a goal, these really harmful side effects of aggression and anxiety are then created, which create more problems, which reduces animal welfare. It also increases the danger to the public and to all those who are dealing with the animals. And again, I realize that for many people who have used these tools or methods that cause fear and pain and are saying to me now that, well, it's been effective. And maybe they haven't seen any major fallout from that. Again, it still comes back to the fact that using fear and pain is unethical and it's abuse. And there needs to be no justification. There should be no argument about that. It is objectively wrong. Now, I'm coming across bold and harsh in saying that perhaps, and it's really not coming from a place of judgment. If you've used these tools, if you are thinking about using these tools, if you've entertained the idea of using these tools and methods, the goal of what I'm saying to you right now is to just let you know that there is a way out of that. You don't need to continue using those tools. You don't need to consider that. There are professionals with an education based in science that can help you, and it's just a matter of seeking that out. So, of course, a great place to start is looking to your veterinarian. If you're dealing with issues, that's a really good place to begin. It's also a great idea to look up fear-free certified trainers if there is something a little more simple that you're looking to address with your animal. But there is help, there is resources, and these are evidence-based approaches that can be taken through humane training methods to help your animal no matter what you're dealing with. So this is my animal welfare advocacy for today. I am glad to just say that out loud to help anyone who's out there who's thinking about using these tools or who is using these tools and methods and techniques to hopefully guide you towards providing your animal with better welfare and a more ethical and humane approach to all aspects of how you deal with them and the relationship that you build with them. We want to build a strong relationship with our animals. We want that built on trust and cooperation and a mutuality about our existence with them, where it's not just us enforcing our will over them, no matter the cost, no matter the approach. It's about having a higher standard, a higher ethical standard. So thank you for everybody's attention if you've listened through this vlog, and hopefully we'll be doing this again soon.